check on us though. Yeah, we can knock this one out quick. There's only so much you can say about a text game. You know what I mean? Dang, I gotta get hosed. What game? It looks just like Linda Carter. Wow, that doesn't look anything like the game I saw. No.
Hey, I just made you a penny.
Thank you. Skip ad.
I made you a third of the penny.
Skip ad. Skip ad.
Hey, Picard.
Let's sing a little. Come on, anything? No.
No. Nothing like a summer illness.
Summer pain makes you feel bad. That's the new version. It's not summer.
Duncan.
It's not summer yet either.
Yeah, tell that to 90-degree temperatures last week.
Tell that to the guy who sat out in the baseball game yesterday while his team got pummeled. Actually, we did the best. This is the best we ever done against the team of death yesterday. So I'll give him credit. Thankfully,
I'll say it was beautiful yesterday.
No, it was hotter and super death hot outside while in that ball field.
No, man.
Dude, I was sitting out there. I'm telling you, that sucker was hot, yo.
But temperature-wise, it was not that hot
It was
yesterday.
hot outside.
It was barely in the 80s.
I'm guessing he didn't sit out in the field yesterday. It was hot. I was directly under the sun of doom. Plus, I'm sick. Double trouble.
But you can't. That doesn't make the world hotter, Aaron.
Listen, it was hot.
It was hot to you.
Of all the things to go into a conversation about, why this?
Because
just take my word for the heat. Just take it.
I'm going to take the thermometer's word for the heat.
I'm going to take the thermometer and I'm going to show it somewhere. How's that?
Then you can check my body temperature.
No. I didn't say I was going to show it there. I'll get an ear, something like that.
Enjoyed? Well, I guess we'll get into that.
Summer breeze.
Hey, Amiga Bang.
Makes me feel fine.
Equalize the Aaron is coming from the left. It's odd. Our live is like that, and then we mix down to mono. Yeah. I don't think we can fix it on the fly.
Yeah, I just mix it to mono. That's strange, though, because we've got the mics just like we always do. Don't we?
Well, and it's coming through one channel, so...
No, it's not. There's two channels there.
Well, okay. Can you just make that one channel?
No.
Oh, fair enough then.
I mean, I could, but why do it now? We never did
because
it. So we're going to experiment now? Okay. What could go wrong? Let's see what happens when I do this. Let's see here. I know it's here somewhere. Downgrade to mono. How about that? Would you know? Does that help?
I think that it is fixed. Yeah, the bars are together now. Forever together. Can you not reverse the mic connections?
Reverse the polarity. Doesn't matter now. We're in mono. Glorious mono.
We should just... Wow. Did you purposely have it in stereo?
No. That's the way it defaultified. Listen, do I look like Quincy Jones to you? I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Both barely knows, and I don't know. I know less than him.
You should educate yourself.
Look at the amount of options on this thing. I mean, this thing, it's like, make sound, go here.
See,
sound, come out here.
Everyone's happy now.
Good.
You've made everyone's audio day.
That's great.
Time to ruin it.
I'm a giver. I am a giver. You know that. When you
pain,
came in here, you're all
anguish.
sick. You're sick. You're beat down. Who takes care of you? Good old A. Good old nurse.
You yelled at me from the very beginning.
I didn't yell at you. I was yelling for you. Because I know you hold yourself to a higher standard than what you're delivering today. This is a low bar.
Hey, when the show starts, I'll kick it on.
Is that what? What was your excuse for last week? The show did start at one point. You know, last week's show I thought was going to be a complete bomb. It did okay.
Yeah. Killed Black and White.
Well, that was...
Well, you picked a really dumb game
That's
choice.
Not true.
Yeah.
I had the good game.
No.
Listen. I'd hate to beat your sick butt right here on national TV,
Well,
but I'll do it.
There's a lot of things wrong with that statement.
Yeah.
I mean, pretty much all of it.
Summer days. Who sings that song? Do you remember?
Yeah.
Who is it?
The Richardsons.
You made that up. That's not even a real band.
You don't think the Richardsons is a real band?
Who are they? I'm sure it's just some generic name. That's like calling my favorite band's called the Bills. Well, I don't know if they exist. They probably do.
The Richardsons band. Bam.
Okay, did they sing Summer Breeze?
They sung Long Time Coming.
Yeah, there's some local band that no one's heard of. You're giving them national exposure, international exposure right now.
See? Let's play
What
a
they do?
little bit
Are
of
we
their
getting
soundtrack.
paid by the Richardsons? I don't remember seeing any.
Are we getting paid at all? All right, that's
That's
enough
not
of
bad.
that.
Oh wait, what? It's over?
Yeah, because they'll probably copyright strike us.
Shoot, I forgot to send the naked pictures to Andy. One of our amigos. One of our amigos. Wrong show. Our ARG presents arcade challenge winners.
What did you forget to send?
Naked pictures. That's what he asked for.
Oh.
One must wonder what's wrong with Mr. Craig to request such a dumb thing.
You know what? I don't ask questions. I'm not gonna down someone for what they like.
Well, I will. What you like is dumb and wrong. How's that? I'll definitely do it.
All right, the show starts in 1 minute. Are you ready?
No. Look at all this stuff I gotta use my crayon on. Crayon. This is what the West Virginians use for the highlighter. I got a lot of good stuff on our opening gimmick. I think it's good. I thought it was interesting. Man, I'm not looking forward to producing this one.
We can
What am I going to put in the background? Just fields of text. Let's break away to more text. Oh, sweet Lord. I don't know what I'm going to do about that. This is going to be a short one.
I 100% guarantee this will not be a 1 hour show. If you ramble on
I'm going
for
to stretch
1
this sucker
hour,
out and get ready. It's going to be like going to a class at Skizzle. I'm going to lay down the jive tone teaching right here.
and we got a diverse turnout.
That's right. How do you know it's diverse? How do you know?
Picard, Duncan Styles, Amiga Bang, Alec Mold, Sox McCoy. Yeah.
Sox McCoy sounds like a character, like one of the failed mascot characters.
No, it sounds like the Star Trek Doctor's cat.
Very clever. Aren't you a smart boy? Bones would not have a cat. He's a doctor. Those things are full of disease. He wouldn't have one of those things around.
He kept Kirk around.
Kirk is the captain.
And
What?
he's full of disease.
Kirk, no. How dare you? Kirk was all man and a yard wide.
Yeah, and that's what helped him keep his disease status in check.
You ready to
It's full check.
You ready to lay down some sweet beats here? I feel like going to get my DJ stuff and get it back out. Waka waka waka. The remix.
See, if that is how you perceive DJing, that's why you're not a DJ.
Shut up. You remember that song?
Aaron, what happened to Atari 8-bit streams? ZX sucks.
Oh man, who said that?
No, ZX sucks. It was a question.
What, ZX sucks is a question?
Apparently, yes.
Well, here's what happened. Baseball season happened, and
Yeah.
my streaming ability has been nigh because every night it's a continual race to get my kid somewhere. Back, forth, up, down. It's everywhere. Between that, various other pulls on my time, my streaming abilities have been limited. Listen, I got stuff to stream for days, and I've got Atari stuff coming out to Yin Yang. I got games coming out to Yin Yang. It's just a matter of getting some time to do them, isn't it? And you're more busy than I? Well, no, that's
No, I'm
true.
not.
Well, I'm busy. That's all I'm saying. But
Both my kids are out the door, baby.
theoretically, baseball season should be over within the next calendar week, and then thankfully I'll have more time, much more time, hopefully. And also, City of Heroes.
Colin.
City of Heroes didn't help either.
Oh, it helped.
It helped me not get as much sleep.
Helped a lot. Colin likes your Bret Hart shirt.
Yeah. Everybody liked the Bret Hart.
Nah.
He was at the very first AEW show last week. He showed up to show off the belt. A big, huge coup for an outfit that's not WWE related in any way. They're a competitor, direct competitor to him. He showed up to give out. Yeah, you don't care, do you? Damn it! I tried. No one likes wrestling. It's a real bummer.
You don't like wrestling.
I do. What? I am wrestling. I'm the embodiment. Hey,
Wow. Well, that
I really
explains
enjoyed
a
the show
lot.
last week. All right, you ready to go? Let's get this sucker in the can.
LSR Vlog says, yeehaw.
Yes. He must know where we're at. Now are you ready? Stop reading the chat. Let's get this sucker
Yeah,
going.
ignore our fans. Screw them. In fact, get out. Please don't
They're
get
more
out.
like well-wishers.
Please don't get out. I'm sorry.
You're an idiot. All right, you ready? Listen, you got to come up with something. So you can't just keep putting off the show. You got to.
What do you mean come up with
You got to
something?
be clever and insightful, entertaining.
Why would I start
you're
that
currently
now?
not. Well, I'm saying get better is my point.
What, Aaron? The LSR wants to know what mics we use.
These are Tascam microphones. Now,
No, that's a Tascam receiver.
no, these are the microphones for the Tascam.
Oh, okay.
These are, ironically, there are actually two different types of mics, but that's all Boat had. So we've got two different types of mics that sort of work in conjunction and make my life hell.
Yeah, we're the hand-me-down show.
Don't give me no hand-me-down show. Remember that song?
Nope. All right, go.
All right, here we go. One of these starts it. Here we go. We got to wait a little bit longer because I keep cutting off the beginning. I've done it every time. Makes me look like a jerk.
It does.
Ooh, hello, everyone. Welcome to a text-based ARG Presents. I am Amigo Aaron, that's AARON, joined by a man whose vocabulary parser is only 3 words, the Brent.
You know, making a not certified but mostly dyslexic guy play text adventures is not nice.
You're dyslexic?
I've never been
I am
professionally tested, but I have all the signs. From how I pronounce words to my spelling and mixing up things like left and right.
I
Those
as a
are all
professional,
signs.
deem you just dumb.
No, I'm not, but that's the
What
thing.
a way to start the show to
I'm
talk
not
about
dumb.
your alleged dyslexia.
Yeah.
You know, if you think you've got dyslexia, don't you should go to the doctor?
No, it's well.
Nah, screw it. The doctor? What the heck are they
I mean,
for?
because there's what are they gonna do? I've learned to cope with it, obviously.
My guess would be I would use the old mallet. You know what I'm saying? Burn one of those whacks. Maybe that'll get your crap lined out.
But I tried to enjoy today's games despite my setbacks.
This all sounds like an elaborate ruse to me.
No,
So
that's very true. Seriously.
I don't believe you. So if you were here last week, we spun the wheel. We made the text-based deal. And this week, much to Brent's delight, we are playing text-based adventure games. Brent, what's your history with text-based adventure games? Because despite all this dyslexia stuff, you've played quite a few of these in your day.
Well, solely text-based, almost none.
Well, I mean, come on.
outside of Zork. Now, stuff like Dallas that
Yeah.
has some graphical aspect. And the reason why there's a huge difference in this is games like Dallas have far more graphical representation instead of walls of text to try to visualize a room. So that's why I can play those with much more ease.
Games for unimaginative idiots is
Well,
what I'm saying.
no, I'm
Let's
just
face
saying.
facts. He's talking about like Dallas Quest, which we covered
Yes.
on our TRS-80 Color Computer show. Listen, you can't go by those pictures. Come on. You had
No,
to read the
you
text.
do.
But I'm saying you could clearly, you had to read the text to get through those games. We played all kinds of stuff on the Coco that was half graphics, half text.
Yeah, I greatly prefer those. I mean, we both chose games this week that are 100% text-based.
Yeah, it's
So,
text adventure
yeah.
week. We could just put graphics in there, otherwise we'd be violating the spirit of the wheel. And you don't do that. That's no good.
Yeah.
So
You saw one of those pieces try to get us last couple weeks ago anyway.
yeah, so you know, there's a universe. There honestly is a vast universe of text adventures, interactive fiction. You know, you use your own verbiage on that.
Sure.
And what I like about it is, we had the choice. We could have picked things that have came out in the last year. There are plenty of people still making interactive fiction, which doesn't surprise me. I would find out just to get an idea of what to play. I looked through a bunch of lists, top 30s and 50s, and there were tons and tons of those lists that were dominated by more modern text games.
Yeah.
But I thought, I want to pick something I've never played, and really that's something I've never even heard of. And so that was sort of the reasoning I went. I wanted something that was from the classic era.
And I wanted something that was different from your normal text adventure, which I did.
So one thing and this happens occasionally, but in this case it wasn't that unusual. It's like we both picked games that were made and produced by a company called Infocom.
Yes.
Infocom, their name is synonymous with text-based games. In fact, you'd be hard-pressed to think of anything else when you think of Infocom except for the text-based games.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So I thought we'd have a quick look at Infocom because I really didn't know much about them. And so I took some notes here, and I thought we'd go through them. So Infocom was a company out of Cambridge, Massachusetts. They were they were people that worked or went to school at the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, MIT.
Yeah,
so these weren't idiots right there right out of the gate. They were founded in June 22nd of 79.
Yep.
All right. Right at the cusp of the personal computer thing. So Infocom they were very clever. Like I said, these weren't idiots. And so what they did was their games were written in a what's called a Lisp-like programming language called ZIL, the Zork Implementation Language, or Zork Interactive Language, depending on who you ask. And so what this gave them the ability to do was to use. They had special interpreters that could basically use these on like a multitude of different systems with a little
easy
problem,
quick to translate.
And and this was key. What made this particularly cunning was that once you basically moved the interpreter over to his new machine. Every game you release going forward, you just run through it. You don't. So it's not like every game had to be compiled.
Yeah, it's a game. It's a game engine. It's a text-based game engine. Yeah, it was very clever.
Another thing it allowed those guys to do was to release their games for a bunch of machines at the same time.
Yeah, instantly.
No one did this, I can assure you. And so you'd have, for example, they might come out with a game that ran on the TRS-80 Model 1, Apple II, the Atari, and the IBM XT. All at the same time.
Yeah.
And it might come out the same day because it was easy for them.
Yeah.
Of course, it's text-based. So the very first game these guys released, now sometimes companies get off to a shaky start. Not this company. The very first game they released was the famous, legendary, people still talk about it, Zork.
Yeah.
Zork 1. Zork was a game that was an enormous sort of mainframe developed game. It was so big, in fact, that when they released, they had to release it in 3 parts. So if you ever wonder why there was Zork 1, 2, and 3, it's because it's the same game. They had to split it up because it was so huge, which I thought that was kind of cool. The original Zork came out in 1980 on the original TRS-80s, the Model 1s, the Model 3s. Did you ever play with those much?
I mean, I didn't play Zork on those.
I mean, did you ever actually use a TRS-80 Model 1 or Model 3?
No.
They had a built-in monitor and stuff. They were a pretty popular machine back in the monochrome monitor and whatnot.
Yeah, I was way too young. Way too young.
So they realized pretty early on that text adventures were going to be a big revenue stream. And one thing they also noticed, now this was interesting to me, but it makes sense because this stuff lingered, is that these text adventures would continue to sell well after their initial release. Unlike most games that come out, the Zorks and the Enchanted stuff, they would linger and they would stick around on sales charts. It's funny. I was never a big Zork guy. I mean, I played it. Everybody played it, but it was omnipresent for years, wasn't it? I mean, you heard about it forever, and it's because it did, and you saw ads for it forever. I mean, well after it was released. One of the employees there, Tim Anderson, said of the situation, "It was phenomenal. We had a basement that just printed money. If there's ever been a statement that would set you up for a major fall, that was the statement." So by '83, Infocom was basically the big dog in gaming, right? They had all 10 of its games for the top 40 in the week of December 12th, 1983. Zork was in first place, and 2 others were in the top 10. So think about that. That's like an album where you chart every single and it charts the top. That's quite a hit. You know how gaming is. Tell me, you're talking a diverse bunch of people that are buying this stuff, but these games were hot. These text games were really, really hot. The company also, I found this interesting, Britster. The company stated that the year, in '83, they did a poll or survey, and 75% of the players were 25 years old or older, and 80% were men, which that sounds like a lot, but this actually put them that put them at the top of the field for lady players.
Yeah.
Which I thought that was kind of
20% female game interest is huge.
Something else that they mentioned, I thought that makes sense, and I remember this, of course, is that Infocom games were sort of, and I got a big double dose of this when I was playing mine this week. These games were not marketed or made for morons. They were made for well-read, educated folks. Right?
Yep.
And what does that mean? Well, that means that's the kind of audience you attract, and almost all of them are also voracious readers, which makes sense. It's a text-based game, and so Infocom did what a lot of other companies couldn't do. They had their stuff selling in game stores or department stores, but also bookstores.
Yes,
they sold a lot of their stuff in bookstores, which I thought that was kind of neat.
Even up to their end, they did that.
Right. Now, most of their games are just standard text games. They had they were very well written for the most part. They would also throw in puzzle elements in them that would be your pivot. The fun part of it would be doing the puzzles. Sometimes they just put in wacky puzzles just for or Easter eggs, stuff like that. They just had a good time with it. But they also, I've not played every Infocom game ever made because there's a zillion, but I've played enough to know that they're pretty clever, and for the most part, they were very well written. And you mentioned Dallas Quest, and we'll use that as an example. The chasm, the canyon between Infocom text games and say Dallas Quest or some of the stuff we put into Coco is unbelievable. It's like one is written for like college graduates, and one's written for like kids in grade school.
Well,
and the thing,
I wouldn't go that far.
And I don't mean necessarily it's written poorly. I just mean like the puzzles, though, a lot of times like nonsensical.
Yes.
There's a lot of things that make you wonder what the heck they were thinking or stuff. Dallas got you, for example. You couldn't get past a bunch of stuff. And if you played a lot of those old sort of, there were other competing text-based gaming companies and had text, and your mileage would vary greatly. Yes. One thing about Infocom, for the most part, their stuff was quality, top-shelf text adventures. There was no like the crap job that were involved in these things. Zork was the centerpiece of Infocom, as we mentioned, but there were plenty of other big titles in there. And just to mention one is the Enchanter series, which I actually played that one quite a bit back in the day. And the good thing about Infocom is they really did branch out into a lot of different genres. You had horror, and you had fantasy, science fiction. They had mystery, like detective stuff, which I think those were pretty cool. Now, this I didn't know, Brent. I thought this was interesting. They wanted to attract more females, and so they released a series called the Plundered Hearts series.
Romantic novel?
That cast the gamer in the role of a heroine of a swashbuckling adventure on the high seas. So that is as generic as you could a romance novel of text-based adventures. I wish I'd picked one of those now. That would have been pretty entertaining. So, Leisure Suit Larry was the thing. Remember him? Mm-hmm. Infocom had to get some of that sweet adult action. But what do? You're a text-based thing. Well, now, I will say, I've played plenty of these text-based games that are dirty, like online.
Oh, sure.
There are plenty of door games that get pretty filthy. Well,
Drug Wars.
Infocom wanted to get some of that action, but they didn't want to go down the sewer, Brent, a place that you will probably occasionally dwell in back in the day. So they came out in '86 with Leather Goddesses of Phobos. Remember that game? Every kid played it, including you. Don't lie. You played it. It wasn't that bad. And I remember specifically it had a scratch and sniff card with it. Come on, that's pretty good.
Well, the Infocom was really famous for their pack-ins.
Yeah.
They did a lot of fun stuff.
They sure were. Now, so if you're like me, picture yourself, it's the early '80s. All right? You're dumb as a sack of hammers.
Okay.
And you get to a point where you don't know what the heck to do. That happened to me a lot this week. Now, what did I do this week? Well, I just went on Uncle Internet, took care of business, Not in the old days. There was no Uncle Internet. There was nothing. All there was Cousin Library, and he was a jerk. So what they had here was a beginning. They had a Zork users group that provided pay per hint.
Yes.
Horrible idea, but they made bucks out of that. It was so eventually that turned into Invisiclues. Now these books were everywhere. The Invisiclue books, and they used one of those magic markers that had to, and you could. They would give you multiple choices. So depending on how stuck you were, it would give you like a slight hint, then a bigger hint, and then it would just say, "Listen, idiot, Do this.
Yeah, this is it.
Type this in. The Invisa Clue books were super successful, and they were always near the top of the computer book charts, which, of course, also back in those days, computer book charts are a lot less occupied than that. Now, I didn't know this either. I found this out. They released some games under what's called the Solid Gold on Solid Gold. Remember that show? No? Okay, moving on. Anyway, so what the Solid Gold was they would actually put the hints, they would just bake it right into the game.
Yep.
You could just type in hint. I wonder if my game had that, because I didn't try it. I should have. Yours did? Oh, yours needed it. My God. Now, this I thought was interesting, and it jostled something in the old brain pan here. Infocom jumped into the realm of bookery, proper bookery, all right? They released some of these choose your adventure style interactive fiction books.
Sure.
And I've got one of these. I looked like Game Busters to try to find it. I couldn't find it. It's in my house somewhere. It's a Zork based game. These proved to be not that successful, although those choose your adventure books were off the charts back in the day. I've got a whole slew of the D&D ones. I've got I've got a bunch of the original ones. We should do a show on choose your adventure sometime.
But when you come from PC, making choices on the PC, where it's so diverse and there's so many things to go to a choose your own adventure book, that audience, if you think it's the same audience, that ain't the same audience.
Well, I mean, I like those choose your adventure books
I
a
do
lot.
too, back in the day.
And one thing that they did was they held Dummy's hand, because they just gave you some choices.
Well, yeah, it's just turning to page 53
I
to
wish
do
Zork,
this.
They should have made a Zork for people that were lazy and dumb. It just here's what you can do, kid. You could do this, do that, and then you'd be in. But there you go. Anyway, these didn't sell that well. They were gone. But like I said, I've got one. I wish I could have found it. So, here's the funny thing about this company. So these guys are riding high. They're the big dogs of gaming, all right? So you know what that means.
Time to fall.
So their founders were jealous, basically, of the Lotus people. The Lotus people came out of MIT, too.
Right.
And I don't mean MIT the sequel. I mean also. And they came out, they found their outfit about the same time that Infocom did. Well, the difference is Infocom made about $6 million, and the people over at Lotus had made like $53 million. They were literally rolling in wad. They had so much wad. And so the people at Infocom was like, we need some of that sweet action. And who could blame them, you know? And in those days, it was still sort of wide open. You get your some, right? So in 1985, they released a database product, Cornerstone. Now, I actually remember this.
Yep.
And their gimmick was, this was a database for small businesses.
Yep.
And so here it comes. They worked hard. They spent a lot of the company's money developing Cornerstone. So, and it used some of their like multi-system tech, the virtual machine stuff. So it started out doing poorly, as in it only sold 10,000 copies, and that didn't even cover the cost of the actual making of the program, right? Well, why did it fail, right? Well, $500 a copy.
Yes.
Now Lotus wasn't cheap, brother, but that's still a lot of money.
Yeah, it's over the top.
Their kind of virtual machine stuff made it run slow, never good, and also they had no, program. It didn't have any scripting in it.
Yeah.
Where Lotus you could do some of that stuff, and so needless to say, it didn't go too good.
It did not.
So there you go.
It tumbled and tumbled hard. It kept tumbling.
Luckily, they still had their main gimmick, right? So in 1984, it was estimated that 1.8 million home computers in America, out of that's how many were existing. That was estimated. Mm-hmm. Half of them had some sort of Infocom games, and then one of the guys said all of them had one if you count pirated games. That's probably about right. I thought that was pretty funny. So one thing that Infocom could do with their crazy, interpreter software was like make games for computers that no one ever made games for, like absolute wacky stuff, and they would do it. So they were one of the few, like for example, like when the Mac came out, like they were the only people that had junk ready to go at launch. They were making stuff for the Atari.
Well, yeah, it's a lot easier to do that for what they were making.
Right. They would make stuff for real oddball, like stuff that wasn't meant to even run games. Because you could get anything to work, so they would do it. So, unfortunately, it's the early 80s, right? You're rolling. in 80, 89, and 79, 80, 81, you don't. Everybody's on you. Well, 82, all of a sudden, here comes the graphic monster,
Yes.
and people are like, hey, wait a minute, look, stuff on the screen. Holy crap! And I remember when this happened, it was like, whoa, because really text-based games, that was mostly how you gamed.
Yeah.
With any quality.
And they were the best at it. Yeah.
Yeah. So they saw the writing on the wall, sorta. Some of the people there did. And so in 82, they started like putting out feelers to get some action, some graphical action. Okay. Now the funny thing is, most of the developers in Infocom didn't like the idea of going with graphics. So because they admittedly, these people had honed their craft and they were the best. They were simply the best.
Sure.
Right? So what did they do? Well, they came up with a new marketing campaign. So they began a series of advertisements mocking and making fun of graphical games as graffiti compared to what the human imagination can come up with. Now, I don't remember this. I'll be honest with you.
I don't either.
But that much said, it struck me as
that's what a dumb idea.
Short-sighted and idiotic.
Yeah.
Well, according to this, the campaign was successful, and it was so successful that other companies like EA and Broderbund actually released some games, some text games. But I don't know. That seems like a more short-sighted maneuver to me. So the problem was Infocom still successful, still selling games. It's a bang operation. There was one problem. They had created their own anchor, their own cement shoes, and they were taking a dip in the pond. If you know what I mean. And it was that Cornerstone. How apropos! This is the name of this thing. Cornerstone was literally shackled to them. And they threw it in, and they were drowning. So what happens when that kind of crap goes down? Well, you know what happens. Bad stuff. So right around 86, 85, Infocom laid off half of its 100 employees. All right, so think about it. We're riding high. They were just talking about how they were the dominant force. Bam, half your employees gone.
Yeah.
And then they were acquired. And the funny thing is, earlier, companies had been vying to buy them, and for big money. And they'd said, like, screw you. Well, here comes Activision comes in. It's like, yeah, you guys are boned, aren't you? They're like, yeah. So they bought the company in June 13th of 86 for $7.5 million. Now, it's not all doom and gloom. All right.
That's pretty doom and gloom, man.
The guy that ran Activision at the time was a guy named Jim Levy, right? And he loved Infocom. And so his idea was they could put these guys together and we can properly maybe do some of the graphic stuff correctly and get these guys back in the game. Because Infocom had a huge name.
Sure.
All right?
Oh, definitely.
So everything looked rosy until Activision fired Levy and replaced it with a guy named Bruce Davis. Bruce Davis not only hated Infocom, he thought they paid too much for it. And so he sued Infocom to get some of his money back. Pretty bad when that happens. So after the back catalog continued to sell well, despite the fact that this guy, they were still part of Activision.
Right.
You know,
when your parent company sues you, that's bad. That's
right.
Bad times.
So Davis was like, listen, jerks, I need 8 titles a year from Infocom. Good, top quality stuff. Well, Infocom was only putting out about 4.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, crap. And so they were having trouble hanging, basically.
That's
and then
insane.
They also wanted to integrate graphics into they demanded it. The first graphical adventure that Infocom released was called Fu Blitzky. Fu Blitzky. Okay, that's the name. Right there. What's that tell you?
Yeah.
That name sucks. I've never played Flu Blitzky. In fact, I never heard of it until I look through this information here. It sucked. And plus, using their crazy interpreter, it made it run slow and crappy. Double trouble. So, in 88, Infocom and Activision were actively feuding, basically. They did not like working for Activision. And Activision was convinced that Infocom was providing them with crappy games just because they didn't like them. It's just kind of funny if you think about it. It seems like suicidal to me. So, in 88 and 89, things got worse. And so in 89, Activision closed Infocom. And so a lot of guys got moved around within the company. But it's like, it's just like any other merger. So a lot of the big players get to stick around, and the rest of them get basically hosed. So that's when it's time for all these packaged super game, the Zork trilogies and the
Yep.
and the Infocom Treasures and all this stuff start coming out.
It's when your re-releases hit full time.
Now, the funny thing about these, and Brett touched on it, one of the staples of the Infocom games were the boxes full of cool stuff.
Yes.
You would get newspapers, you would get bits of maps, you would get pretty high quality items.
Yeah, they called them feelies.
Feelies. When they released these, I never bought one of these. I never bought one of the re-release versions of these, but I often wonder, how did they include 20 feelies? Well, they did not.
No. Oh no.
So a lot of times any feelie they could get rid of, they just jettison that sucker. And then the ones that you absolutely had to have, they would even go to the point where you would just put a picture of the feelie in there.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. It was all a money grab to get the uninformed.
Yeah. So something else that Activision didn't really believe in was continuing to push the old library of games. Because they're like, this ain't going to make any more money. And they were making money the whole time. Well, they stopped making money when you stopped pushing them. And so finally, they released a game called Return to Zork, and it was under the Infocom name. And then that was in Infocom. Activision booted the name.
Yep.
And so that was it. A sad ending, really. How many companies have we covered that the ending was very similar to this? And this one, they made one screw up. It was this cornerstone.
Well, here's the thing.
Plus, they were probably doomed by time.
They were unwilling to advance technology with the time. And sure, they could probably be doing text adventures right now for someone, to some audience. But they weren't going to maintain their staff of 100+ people doing text adventures in the mid 90s. It just wasn't going to happen.
I will say they indelibly changed the face of gaming with their text adventures to the point that even in a modern age, if you get a Kindle or whatever, they still have the tech to play these things.
Yep.
So it's not like they went away. They're still quite popular, and among a certain crowd, they're mega popular. I see people all the time get online like a stream and just get together with a bunch of people who try to solve these things.
Yeah. Now, tell me this. Do you think text adventures could have continued on if they would have not added graphics, but instead added voice actors to do your lines, to describe the rooms and stuff? I mean, people who are good at their craft.
Someone that read the text to you?
Well, more than just that. Put feeling into it, not just a computerized.
I don't know, and I'll tell you why. It's the one thing that Infocom did get right with their idiotic advertisement campaign. It's like nothing paints a vivid picture like the human imagination.
Well, you've still got the human imagination.
It's not the same. I listen to a lot of old-time radio. In fact, I just listened to some CBS Radio Mystery Network last night. And one thing you get from that is you're painting the picture mentally. That means something. I'm not sure people, the purists in particular, could make this transition to having someone read the text yet. Plus, a lot of times they botch those. I mean, yeah, if you get it right, it's easy to botch. So is my point. You got to admit that.
Well, that's what I'm saying, though. If you had quality, I think I would be far more likely to play something like that in a modern setting if it had voice actors doing the room descriptions and stuff like that. But then again, I enjoy book on tapes and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
If done right.
You're old, by the way. Book on tape. Get that out. Now it's a book. The book is not on the tape. It's there. Audio books, man. So,
book on tape.
We picked 2 games from the vast library of text adventures. Again, we didn't know we were both picking Infocom's games, but it's no big surprise.
No, when you're going with decent text games, this is all there is.
So
really.
we're gonna let Brent lead the dance today with his
his
wacky choice. Now I will tell you, I'd never heard of Brent's game.
Correct.
And when he picked it, I chastised him for being an idiot.
It's true.
There you go. For better or for worse, I just want my stance publicly known. Go ahead. What'd you pick?
I picked Nord and Bert. Couldn't make head or tail of it.
See, I was sure this was something from the UK. I was sure it was.
Oh.
And so I was wrong. This had a fat worm blows a sparky sort of feel to
it. This might go down as the wackiest title we've covered. I mean, just by the title.
Fat worm blows a sparky.
Okay, that's probably more. So this got released, as you said, under the Infocom publisher and developer, and into their ZIL engine, which made it available on Amiga, Apple II, Atari ST, Commodore 64, DOS, and Macintosh. I originally was going to review the Amiga version, but ended up playing mine on a DOS box.
Okay.
But it's all the same because it's text. It's literally all text. So the plot of Nord and Bert is completely nonsensical, and it's nonsensical on purpose because all of the gameplay is not one large adventure. It's actually 7 adventures based on different types of wordplay. So, when you start the game up, you have a choice of going into one of 7 lands, and then from there, if you complete it, you get a password that allows you to unlock the 8th land, which is the final land. The lands are called the Shopping Bazaar, Playing Jacks, Buy the Farm, Eat Your Words, Act the Part, Manner of Speaking, and Shake a Tower, with the final mission being Meet the Mayor. Each of these worlds have different wordplay elements that you have to try to figure out and piece together and clue. For example, Shopping Bazaar puts you in a grocery store, and it might say there's a mammal sporting hooves and smells like fudge. Well, they want you to say chocolate mousse. So that was that kind of crazy wordplay. Playing Jacks takes a look at you have a Jack of all traits box, and the box does different things and it's a Jack in the Box. It has different elements. It does different things relating to the word Jack. Jack knife, Jack hammer, that sort of thing. Buying the Farm is it's all cliche expressions, like pig in a poke. It's all farm-based cliches, and the setups for them and trying to figure them out, and then it goes on and on and on. The game does it. The setup for the game is not elaborate. It doesn't go into the beautiful landscape that you're in. It doesn't talk about the characters you're meeting in any sort of high detail. It sets you up with a word pun, and it expects you to solve it. And each level of the 7 levels will allow you to move around from 3 or 4 different locations, and it'll let you do that freely. So you have 3 or 4 puzzles you can work on at a time. But the progression is solve this word puzzle, and then we'll give you another word puzzle. Which makes, it's nice that you can choose between 1 and 7 worlds, because that at least allows you to, if you get stuck in one world really bad, you can just go away from it and go to a different one and work on that. And it has the point system, so you know when you're getting close to completing a world, and most of them are between 20 and 35 points. The game itself, though, for a text-based adventure, when I went a text-based adventure, I wanted to play this because it sounded different, and I love puns and wordplay. I really do. But there was no setup. All the setup was to just get you to say the line. And it didn't try to work it into a story. It didn't try to have a good setup. It was just, here's your wordplay. Put in the right text that goes with this wordplay, which made the game very, very dry. Now, this was released in 1987, so this is way, way late into the Infocom years. And maybe they were just sick of doing it. Maybe they thought, riddles and wordplay would play out better than it did. But for me, it was a complete miss. Complete miss. It was just too bland to get me involved. It does have the hint system. You can type hint, and it says, look, if you do this, you're a scumbag. And you type it again, and it's like, okay, here's the hint. And it has it has a list of all of the items that you'll be interacting with, for example. Yeah. And if you click on it once, it gives you a very subtle hint. And if you click it again, it gives you a very direct hint. I got stuck over and over and over because some of the scenarios, it just did not describe itself well enough for me to get to even understand what they were saying. Plus, if you didn't understand the world you were in and the type of wordplay that it wanted you to go for, like if you were trying to come up with cliches, but you were in the pun world, you're screwed. You're never going to get there because those are two radically different plays on words. So I didn't enjoy it. I thought I would. I tried to get into it. It was too much word, too much riddles. They should have just came out and said, here's your riddle, answer your question. And instead there was no setup. It was very bland to me.
It was, some people like to do the Sudoku. You know what I'm saying?
I like Sudoku.
Some people like to do crosswords.
I don't like
crosswords. Some people like to do various word searches. And
sure.
Stuff. So everyone's got their thing.
Sure.
And there are some people that enjoy this sort of wordplay stuff.
Right.
Now, I did a little research on this game, and I found out that there weren't that many people because this game did horribly.
It did not sell well. It did not review well either.
And so when I sat down with it, and I'm not gonna lie, I was trepidatious because I never heard of it, but I did some research before I played it. It's a tough one for me to comment on because I'm not gonna lie, I didn't spend a ton of time on it. It just did not do it for me. And the truth of the matter is, this is not my thing. This isn't like you liked Zork, but you didn't like Leather Gods of the Phobos. The stories are wildly different.
Right.
This is something else.
Completely different.
I like Zork. What the hell is this?
Yeah, I don't like fishing. Well, I mean, it's that radically different.
What they did was, and this is to credit them, they could have just done what you said, put some questions up there, some word. But I mean, they tried to wrap this in something.
But it was horrible.
Well, I'm saying
it was horribly done.
They tried to wrap this into an overall package that would give these games some sort of connection. These various little elements of the games. But honestly, it's not when I loaded it up. It's not what I'm looking for in a text-based adventure game. It just didn't do it. Now, the funny thing is, text-based gaming is perfect for this genre of gaming, this wordplay gaming.
Yes. Yes, it's the only place you could ever do it.
Yeah, and but
to this extent,
it was difficult for me. Now it could be again. We mentioned these games were not written for idiots. Okay. Well,
it was extreme. And that's one of the problems. This was past when Infocom used to say how hard their game was on their box. This was past the point where they had done that. But most people put this in the upper standard, lower expert range, and that's way up there. And that doesn't mean you have to be an uber genius. It just you have to think like they want you to think. And some of the hints were so vague. Perfect example. I got to an olive tree, and there was a waitress there, and after looking at the waitress, and she was mad at me. So I handed her an olive branch. I broke a branch off the tree and that made sense to me. I'm handing her the olive branch. I'm trying to make peace. She brought me a pie. It was humble pie. I ate the humble pie. That made sense to me. Mm-hmm. And then there were other things that were so left field that even with the hints, even with the this is what you need to do hint, I couldn't make the connection between what they were trying to ask of me and what they wanted me to do. It's just too convoluted. It's too convoluted. This does have a feelie that comes with it.
I was wondering.
It has a comic book, a book of comics, not a comic book, that has each land visualized in a comic style. Sort of like the comic style very, very much reminds me of the Far Side.
Mm-hmm. I saw some pictures of that, yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's a decent feeling for something like this because
what are you going to put in something like
right the worlds they put you in are so nonsensical. It's the only thing to do is kind of comically put it out there.
Yeah.
But overall, I did not enjoy my experience. The engine is obviously great, as it is for all these games because it's all the same engine. It it just wasn't fun for me. It wasn't fun for me at all.
I agree. Did you see any reviews on this thing?
Yes. The reviews from Computer Gaming World, they didn't enjoy it. They said that the game was not as complete as a lot of Infocom games. They didn't feel that the wordplay was equal to some of the adventures that you get through the other Infocom games. Compute Magazine was a little more favorable. They said they liked the humor in the game, and there is humor in the game because you pretty much have to. It's wordplay. But they also admitted that, it's not going to be for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And Compute Gazette.
I remember those. Jeez, I thought about those for a while.
They say if you don't like the adventure games from Infocom, maybe this will be your speed, which I can understand that. And then Antics reviewed it, saying that it couldn't recommend the game. The puzzles just aren't solvable unless you know what the cliche they're looking for. If you've never heard the cliche, them giving you the pieces, well, you're never going to get there. If you haven't heard the cliche, you're screwed. What do you think this sells for on eBay, Aaron? Now that you've sat there and looked at the screen,
I didn't look. I couldn't guess, to be completely honest with you. I would guess not much, but this probably was a low seller, so there's a chance there's a rarity to it.
The boxed copies of this game for the Apple range between $70 and $85.
Yeah.
For the PC, where I'm sure it's sold a little bit better, it's down to the $64 range. And for the Commodore, where I'm guessing this did not sell hardly at all in '87, holy moly, $100.
Can you imagine you've got your Amiga, you're sitting there, and it's like, well, I guess I could play Hybris or something, or I could just load this up. And I'll play Dragon's Lair.
Yeah.
It's amazing how far into the future that they went.
Well, so what do we have a user review on this?
We sure did. Our good buddy Graham W. Vepke, he gave this a whirl. God bless him. While written by the same author as Ballyhoo, this game misses the mark on humor and focuses on puns and spoonerisms. And if you struggle with either of those or convoluted riddles, you will struggle with this game.
Yes.
To demonstrate what I mean, you will need to solve things like the worst brat is a clue for bratwurst. The souled elf is your old self, and you can't take the horn under a list of 9 laws you need to possess the horn instead, because possession is 9/10 of the law.
Yeah.
These are all horrible. Obviously, Graham is well ahead of the curve on this.
Well,
stuff.
and that's in that whole world is mixing up the letters clues to make new words. Yeah.
I hope this isn't someone's first text adventure.
Oh,
it would turn them off for life. Play Wishbringer or a Scott Adams game as your first interactive game fiction instead. 4 out of 10. A very rare panning from the Graham.
I think 4 out of 10 is probably fair.
I would.
Although this is 100% going to be, if you really like word puns and riddles, it's going to be higher. But the overall package, it's just not there. It's just not detailed enough.
I didn't like it.
I didn't either.
I'm not. But I mean, I'm not. I don't think it was meant for me, and so I would just say it wasn't my bag.
So what did you bring to the table?
Well, this time around, as I mentioned, I wanted to pick something that I thought would be interesting. And so I had played a bunch of the older Infocom stuff, but I thought I'd play something a little later in their catalog.
Sure.
And so what I chose, and trust me when I tell you this, I have no knowledge of this game beforehand. You know me. I picked Trinity. Trinity,
yes.
Designed by a fellow named Brian Moriarty. Good name. This thing was released on the Amiga, Apple II, Atari ST, Commodore 128. DOS and Mac.
Yeah.
I played, of course, the Amiga version, because why settle for second best? This was released May 9th, 1986, and is, of course, interactive fiction. So, I never heard of this game. Brendan, did you ever heard of it?
I had not. No.
I may have seen the box. The box depicts sort of a orangey, explosion-y version of the logo. So, what is this game? And I'm not going to ruin it for anybody, but I'll give just a loose synopsis, because it's sort of an the concepts in this game are sort of abstract. Let's go there, as you probably found out. So,
artsy.
You begin as a lady spending a day in London, at Kensington Gardens. Have you ever heard of Kensington Gardens?
Yes.
I didn't know anything about Kensington Gardens.
I don't know anything about it. I've just
And
heard of
your
it.
character's flying back to the U.S., so presumably it's a U.S. Citizen, and she's walking around these gardens. Now, I learned a lot right off the bat at the beginning of this because I didn't know what a lot of the stuff in the gardens were. They've got a word for baby carriage I'd never heard of. And my buddy at work is very well read, and he had no idea what it was. I had to
look it up.
and that was the first of many things I had to.
Yes. Dictionary on standby.
Look up. So that right there, it's like, okay, this is not for idiots. So the tone the game sets right at the beginning is very interesting. And it's sort of a surreal game in a weird way because you're walking around these different scenes, and it describes in vivid detail what's going on in these gardens. There's a kid blowing bubbles, and there's ducks, and you can feed them, and there's all these people, there's grands pushing baby carriages around, and this big, and eventually you find your way to this big sundial, which was one of the feelies, was this picture of the sundial, which I'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah.
But all this sounds like a perfectly normal scene. But then it gets kind of like, for example, there's that section where it says keep off the grass. If you get on the grass physically comes alive and throws you off.
Very a la Ultima.
There's a strange reference to like bad stuff coming. Foreboding.
Omens.
And you find little notes here and there that kind of give you a clue as to what to do to get past this part. Now, I'm not going to lie. Just getting past the beginning of this was no easy feat. Now, I will say, I managed to get off this first section without cheating, believe it or not. And there was one thing that really screwed me up, and I just as a hint, it was pulling the thing off the sundial. And that was, did you help her?
I did get that.
And so, who would have thunk that? And it was a pivotal part of the whole thing. And then
it mentions it's loose.
Getting across the grass was something else that took me a while to get. But and it was frustrating. One thing about playing a game like this and under the certain time restrictions that we've got, this game requires you to sit down and really think.
It's odd. Of all the games we play, text adventures are the ones we do the least amount of justice to because they are not meant to be played in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 hour one long session. They're meant to be played for weeks or months.
That's the way I would do it. I mean, but back in the day, I would play it the other way. So you go through all this rigmarole, and then as you're doing it, the bomb drops, right? An atomic bomb, and you manage to get to an area where like a pond basically, and just as the bomb is arcing down, and things are going south. A voice guides you through this mysterious doorway that appears. And then the game credits roll. And I was like to myself, holy God, it took me hours to get here. And this is the opening credits. Now, let's talk about, before I get into the meat of the game, let's talk about the basics of the game. One thing that Infocom did, and no one really touched them on this, was their parser, which is the game's ability to understand commands that you type in.
Yeah.
And this thing was well advanced than what I was used to. You could do all kinds of crazy stuff with this parser. For example, if there's a group of things you want, you can say take all, and it just grabs them all.
Yeah.
You can say take all except this.
Yeah.
It'll grab it all. You can say go here, then there, and then it will literally let you stack commands.
And it makes you feel bad for trying to use commands that you use in other games.
Yeah.
Because you'd be like, look sundown. It's like, do you mean look at sundown?
Yeah, it makes you
it's
feel
like oh my God.
It makes you feel like an idiot. It's like, listen, I'm an advanced parser, you jerk.
It does.
What are you
really
doing? You're like,
does.
oh, no, I'm sorry. So that was nice. Of course, as a save feature, it also has the ability to, once you go to a place, it doesn't necessarily have to come back and tell you the entire scene again. It can just
summarizes.
abbreviate, and you can turn this stuff on and off. I typed in verbose so I could get because my memory was crap. And there'd be parts of this where you really need it's almost like a map. Which guess what I had to again, this is another time. Only on this show do I have to sit around map and stuff. Well, actually, occasionally I had to map Dungeon Master, for example, on Amigos. So, once you establish how to play the game, then you actually try to get. So the game is very well written. It is exceedingly well written. This was not a hack. This guy is a professional writer. There was no doubt. Brian Moriarty, he said he came up with the story in '83 for this game, And he joined Infocom in '84, and he proposed it to them. They didn't think that he could fit it in their thing. They didn't think it would work with their software. It was so large. So this guy, then he went out and did a Wishbringer. That was awesome. And they're like, okay, you're in. And so he began to work on Trinity in '85. This guy didn't just like come up with a plot and crap. He researched the crap out of it. You can tell that from playing it. And I will say, I got up to the point where I was able to turn the sundial. This, not to give away the plot, but you basically, that door leads you to some kind of mysterious zone where the sundial is still there, and you can actually use it to travel to different spots in history.
Yeah.
All right.
Time machine. It's time machine.
Which, well, it was sorta. And so these times in history are all centered around the bomb, like different parts of history. And I'll just to read a few here. You've got Nagasaki, 1945, Siberia, which is the Russian tests.
Yep.
The Eniwetok Atoll in the Pacific. That's the first. I think that's the first place I went. I think. And so here you're on this desert island, or it's a beautiful paradise island. They're going to blow the crap out of it, Nevada. And I got to only one of these places, by the way. So So what I had to do was, just in the interest of having been able to talk about this game intelligently, was I had to find someone. Believe it or not, there's a guy that does playthroughs of these, and I had to go back and skip ahead so I can at least see what happened, and so I could, because I'd heard what it was about, but I wanted to make sure I knew. So anyway, getting back to Moriarty, once he put this game down, he had to research all these different spots. He had to research how the bomb stuff were created, what happened there at the time, and he's quoted as saying, "Writing it wasn't a pleasant experience. I can tell you that. It's not easy to sit down and write that stuff. It's hard to live with that game for a year." And he also added that Trinity is not a funeral, and don't be afraid of it. It's a dark game. But it's also, I like to think, kind of a fun game too. And I will say, the game has, there are parts of the opening and some of the other things you do that are sort of whimsical, and but they feel very strange in this game.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, once you know what's going on, feeding the ducks and playing with the babies and stuff, it's dark. It feels dark.
The game I found to be difficult, and I will say, once I got past the opening credits, I had to get help quite a bit. And I'll give you an example. There's a scene where you come across a big log. And I doubt you got this far.
No, I don't remember this.
So I didn't know this. I didn't even try it. But you can grab the log. Well, when you grab the log, it splinters. And then you're supposed to pick up one of those splinters. And later on in the game, you're supposed to jab the splinter down into this hole. I had no idea.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah, this is difficult stuff. Now, one thing I think I've lost, when I used to play these a lot back in the day, you kind of get a feel for some of them, which I don't have anymore. I found it very frustrating and difficult to get through some of this stuff. Now, it's not as frustrating as other games where the parsers treat you it makes you feel like an idiot. This one just, it'll let you do the stuff.
Oh, this one makes you feel like an idiot, but in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame the game. It's just, it's a difficult game. You mentioned feelies. This game actually came with some feelies. It had a map. It had a cardboard sundial, which I actually had to go find because you need that, and with these odd symbols. It's got the illustrated story of the atomic bomb, which is in the guise of an educational comic book, which I tried to find this to look at. I couldn't find it, and luckily someone sent me over a list of where all the feelies were, so I finally got to look at it. Something else I thought was interesting at the beginning of the game, and this may come into play later. You're near a pond, and an origami boat kind of comes up, right? So the package also included how to fold an origami crane using the Yoshizawa-Randlet system, which I don't know what that is. And it also came with a small square of origami paper to do it with. So you can also learn to do origami while you're playing the game, which I think is kind of neat. In case you didn't realize it, the game is basically it's a play on the atomic age. What transpired and what led up to this. Remember, this game was released when the Cold War was still hot and heavy. Especially if he devised it in '83, it was bad times.
Yeah.
No, '83 is when he came up with it.
Oh, okay.
And so that was no fun. Now you were around.
Not with any. Yeah.
But I remember it in the early '80s. It was not a happy time. I mean, we were right at it with Russia, and a lot of people. I spent a good deal of my childhood convinced that we were probably going to get nuked at some point, and and most people felt the same way.
Well,
I mean, as people that I knew, and we figured it would be Russia. That would do the job. We would assumably we'd do them too, good and proper, and we'd all be killed. So a game like this is timely, very timely, and it's something else that's done in this game that I thought was very interesting was it's very poetic, and occasionally as you go through the game, a box will appear with a book quote or a poem
Bible
or something
verse,
like that. And that doesn't help you not feel. It makes you feel uneasy when these pop up because you're like, oh, that doesn't seem good.
Yeah.
It's never like it's going to be a great day. Enjoy. It's like you're screwed.
It was a neat little feature. Yeah.
I like that.
I thought it was a buck at first. I thought it had shifted out of the window or something. But when it did it again, I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing now.
What I like that because it made the game. This game was well written, and those little quotes dovetail nicely into what's going on.
Yeah.
I wish I didn't suck as much as I do with these. I probably had a lot more fun with it. It just I had a hell of a time getting anywhere. The good thing about this game is I could play it on my phone. I could play it on the computer at work. I could play it anywhere I wanted. And so I would swap between different setups to try to crack it. So I got to play it more than most games, to be honest with you. But you would think I would have gotten a little bit further than I did. Go ahead.
With me, this game would be perfect for. Okay, let me back up for a second. I'm not a reader, and it's because I have to read everything twice to understand it, which makes reading for me very, very slow. Mm-hmm. Because of that, and this game is a wall of text at points.
Yes.
I mean a literal wall of text, and it wears on me so quickly. Even things I love and want to know more about, enjoy, I have problems reading because it's so much, it's a tax on my system. It really is. So when I'm reading this very vivid, very lovely text, and then I try something and it's not right and I start getting frustrated, I fully accept these type of games are not for me. If I had someone... No, it has nothing to do with not being intelligent. It's just my brain is not wired in a way that allows me to read something one time and understand it. So when I get to this point, I wish something would read it to me and let me follow along and then make decisions like that. I know that's not what these games are about, and I accept that. And I accept the games are just not for me. I'm never going to be able to enjoy them as much as other people. I accept that. And I can't say it's a bad game because of that. But it makes me... I mean, the text of this was beautiful from what I read.
And very flowery and descriptive.
Yes,
nice.
Tolkien-esque in a way.
Well, it wasn't that descriptive.
Okay, fair enough.
Tolkien-esque.
But it was it was very frustrating for me because I knew there was a good story here, and I was not going to be able to enjoy it.
One thing, having not played a text game for a while, and you're confronted with this wall of text, and let's face it, all these were a wall of text. I can see the appeal of playing a game like this on like your Kindle or something. It's a much easier thing to read, and you could probably, Brent, I'm sure they have a thing in there where you can get that thing to read it to you. So that might be a way to go.
It's going to be a robotic voice, and that doesn't do the text justice.
Well, they came a long way with those things. So, this game was very well received, and it's sort of legendary, which again I didn't know. In '96, Next Generation magazine, which we both loved, listed Trinity at number 100 in their top 100 games of all time.
That's actually really amazing.
It also later the same year, Computer Gaming World listed Trinity at 120 in their top 150 games of all time. I played the Amiga version, so I went ahead and looked at some reviews of that. Lemon has this listed at 7.5 out of 10.
Everything on Lemon is 7.5.
That's not true. So you sound like Boat. Stop ragging on Lemon. I love that site. ACAR gave it 99%, and the Honest Game reviewers, the Honest Gamers, gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. This game, I will say, if you're a text fan, I think this is an excellent game. If you can wrap your head around the puzzling. I would not play this as my first text game. I think it's pretty difficult, but I don't think it's extraordinarily difficult, but I think it's pretty difficult. I probably would move on to something a little more a little less abstract than this. I mean, this really, and the plot of this is just. Even as I played it, I was trying to figure out what was going on half the time. I'm like, man, where am I? What's happening? And that's part of what is done as you travel to these different areas. And from what I read, at the end, you have a choice to make that effectively changes the end of the game. So, which I always think that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Overall, though, I mean, as far as text adventures go, I thought it was. I mean, having played the ones I played, it's got to be at least one of the top, well-written ones that I've seen. And like I said, I like the quotes. I liked everything about it. The plot was interesting, and so I would give it the enthusiastic thumb up. Now,
I believe we have a user listener review.
Graham also had a look at Trinity, and Graham was excited when I picked this, so he's a fan. Trinity is so renowned and has fairly powerful messages when the game launched during the mid-'80s and near the end of the nuclear-powered Cold War. The story starts as a female protagonist visiting London on holidays, and just before an atomic bomb hits the city, you seem to escape via a floating white door into another time era. You feel like you might be able to do something to change history. You explore each era and solve puzzles to gain control over the flow of time, opening additional doorways, taking you to other historic times related to warfare and atomic bombs. The final era is difficult, and the ending after that is kind of a letdown, but this is an essential Infocom text adventure to play alongside of Wishbringer and Planetfall, both of which I played. 8.5 out of 10. I'd say pretty decent review there from Graham. And
absolutely.
That's definitely Graham's cup of tea. Before we move on, I wanted to touch base real quick with our. We have sent out all the prizes for our Amigo, for the Amigo Hair and Weight Loss Wager for the ARG arcade decoration event. And we've heard back from everybody seemed pleased, so we're happy. We do appreciate that. We've also had one of our good buddies, Steve Rasmussen, is going to shoot us over some more tokens for your token project.
Yeah, if anyone has any tokens or coins that they use to play old arcade games back in the day, we'd love to have them. We still need about, quite a few more. Well, the more we have, the more I can do with it. So if you have those and you're willing to send them to us, you can email us at argpresents@email.com.
At mail.com. Mail.com.
Mail.com.
Yeah. Mail.com. Don't worry, I screw up all the time on the other show, so if I feel like I'm the real stud, I got it right.
And we'll let you know some shipping information. Now, don't go crazy.
Yes.
Don't spend even dozens of dollars to get these to us.
No,
but if you have a way to get this to us that is cheap and effective, any coins, old arcade tokens, stuff that you used back in the day to play your games, that's what we'd love to have.
I love it. Sometimes we'd love to have a good spin on the old wheel. Let's
Yes.
fire the sucker up. Now, Brent, this week we have added a real wacky one. We've got the Exidy Sorcerer.
Yes.
Now, I did some research, and I found out that, yes, we can, in fact, emulate the Exidy Sorcerer. So,
that's good. You'll have to no, I have no idea.
You've heard of Exidy?
Yes.
Okay, so this is the Exidy Sorcerer. So if it comes up, we'll explain what it is. All right. I have no idea.
Wow, that's a good spin, man.
That was a nice one. You did a good job. For a sick person, I thought that was real good. And we have
something
the people
wacky.
always find out before
something
we do.
wacky.
It is
Pack-in games.
Pack-in games.
Now, I'll explain this to the folks. This is a game that has come bundled with a system.
Does this have to be
or
the launch of
computer.
the system or something that could have been
No,
released after?
anything that is bundled with a console at some time, even if it was a game that, it doesn't have to necessarily, it was only available through pack-in, something that was packed in with a system to help sell that system is on the table.
I like it. That's
it's going to be a fun one. It's going to be a great one.
That'll be good. And by the way, we went an hour. So, I told you. I can talk all day, brother. That's why I got 3 shows to get it all out. During the rest of the week, I'm completely silent. So, thanks for joining us, folks, for Text Games. I'm looking forward to this package. It'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah. Quick shout out to folks in chat. We got Amiga Bang, Bacard, Graham.
Make it so.
We got free lunch. Man, I could go for a free lunch or just lunch. I don't mind paying.
There is no free lunch.
We got Steve. We got Sox McCoy, of course. Matthew jumped in. We had I Love Pinball. He really wanted us to play some pinball. I want to play some pinball.
I love pinball. By the way, my good friend Leroy, he lit up the Whodunit machine last weekend I lit it up. Played for about 3 hours. Good solid pinball action. So thumbs up to Leroy.
LSR Vlogs made an appearance. Colin316, Alec Mold, Duncan Styles, although he had to jump out early. Thank you all for. Actually, there's 2 Steves in our chat, I believe.
Steve! Double Steve Trouble.
Thanks everybody for coming out. We actually had a pretty big live crowd today. So that's always awesome.
Hey, that's great. So again, next week pack-in games.
Yes.
And until then, boop. Our endings are stupid. Whoa.
Oh my God.
You held it in the whole show.
Dude, I killed this Gatorade bottle and then killed this one. I was just.
You did a good job.
I was just dying.
You didn't puke or jack up stuff or anything. Nice work, eh?
I wasn't worried about puke. I was worried about coughing.
I'm bloody worried about it. I don't want you puking everywhere. It's gross, man. See, we rang an hour out of text games. I told you we'd be good to go. Most of it's because of you. Non-stop. Can't get him to shut up. Listen, I didn't reserve time in the show for you talking about your dyslexia. How's that gonna play? And people are gonna think I'm a jerk for mocking your alleged dyslexia.
No, I have dyslexia.
Well, you need to go to the doctor. You need to get that taken care of.
No, there's nothing you can do.
They can do stuff to it.
No.
They give you medicine, a ballot.
No,
they
listen.
put your head in a vice.
Listen, this is something Terry and I have studied extensively. I've always thought it was very possible. And Jamie is actually the one who convinced me to look into it more. Now, like I said, I've never been professionally diagnosed, and I don't see things backwards or anything like that. But when I process what I read and what I write, the information, I have to basically decode it before I can consider it. And also, I don't know, you don't travel with me a bunch. I am really horrible about my lefts and my rights. Like, I completely forget which way left and right is.
That's why I don't travel with you a lot.
I mean, I'm really bad about it, and I fully admit it.
Wacky.
But it is something that obviously I've learned to cope with because I'm educated somewhat, and I'm quite functional. And there's nothing you can really do for dyslexia that is mild, which is what I would be diagnosed with.
I'm like Zach Brannigan. I've got a bad case of sexlexia.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Well, I feel sorry for your chairs.
Thank you. Well, I don't know what that means. All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone, for another fun-filled edition. We'll be back next week packing. You know what you're playing already?
Text games on a wheel, and that would be fun. Well, we forgot to mention this.
Can I know the question?
Whose idea was it to put text games on a wheel?
The Brent.
No, it wasn't. And what would be his punishment? No, that was a fan request.
Oh. What did we forget to do?
Yeah, Graham suggested it ages ago.
Graham.
We forgot to mention that
Graham did the right thing.
No, you know what? I'm glad that it came up, and I'm glad we looked at it.
You sounded glad. You looked glad last week, and you were like this.
Oh well, I knew
it made Graham feel great when you did that.
No, I knew it was going to be a rough week for me.
Is Graham in the chat?
Yes, he is.
Graham, that bourbon that you sent over here is the smoothest, most delicious bourbon I've ever had. Ever. And I've drank a lot of bourbon in my time. That is some smooth drinking bourbon. That's dangerous levels of smooth. Like, it's ultra good.
I know the
holy smokes.
I didn't get to try any of the bourbon, but the scotch was great.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, he's glad you enjoyed it.
Oh, man. No, I'm telling you. And you know me, I'm kind of tough on the bourbons, but man, I'd never thunk it. I've drank all the best. I've drank the best, like top shelf bourbon, but nothing that smooth. I mean, it's smooth, brother. It's smooth. All right, let's take this thing to the house then. We'll be back next week. We'll give it another. We'll try harder next time, as they say.
Well, I thought that was a fun. Guys, did everyone have fun?
I'll try harder. Brent, you maintain your level of excellence. That's all we can ask.
You know how hard it was not to cough, just coughing fit continuously.
Listen, you're talking to someone who coughed perpetually on shows for a decade when we did Amigos. I go back and look at the old ones. It looks like I've got consumption or something.
Yeah, actually, you cough a lot on this show, too.
What?
You do.
I don't cough. I didn't cough a bit today. All right, let's take it to the house.
Text adventures in a foreign language.
Oh, man.
That's going to be next.
Well,
full translation mode.
All right, guys. We'll see y'all next week.
Have a good one, guys.
Bye-bye. Adios. Sorry, I don't want to ruin my gimmick, eh?